Hi there, Hamish McLaughlin here, and a big thanks for watching The Last Time I Cried, brought to you by AIA Vitality. AFL can be a cruel game. Alex Johnson can vouch for that. 2,136 days without AFL football. During his career with the Swans, he endured 6 knee reconstructions. In this episode, Alex opens up about the joy of his return and then his lowest point when he realised his career was finally over. Alex, thanks for joining us. All these chats start the same way. One simple question. When was the last time you cried?
I suppose the last time was a bit of a journey. It was an 8-day journey, I suppose, at the end of my footy career, or what became the end of my AFL career to date. My journey's been really well documented in terms of the knee injuries and the setbacks and those types of things that I've had. I had 12 operations on my left knee before I got the news that I was going to get back and actually play AFL, and I think that was probably the start of the roller coaster ride of what footy means to me. And in terms of, people say a week's a long time in footy, but I sort of didn't think it was as long as what transpired in August in 2018. So I'd sort of got back and played a little bit of reserves footy, and then to get a call from the head coach of the Swans, John Longmire, to say, come in and let's have a chat. And it had been a moment that I'd been thinking of for the best part of 6 years. It had been, what worked out to be 2,136 days since I played in the 2012 grand final as a 20-year-old kid, and now, at the age of 26, to be, on the verge of potentially fulfilling another dream of playing AFL. You sort of talk about it and it becomes more and more unlikely as the years go on. Sort of 3, 4 turns into 5 years really quickly, and you think, maybe this potentially won't happen. But I'll never forget the moment of walking into the match committee room at the SCG in the Swans offices, and we just had a sort of just general chat, I suppose, for 2 minutes. I suppose Horse was probably trying to build up the suspense. And then he unveiled the board, and my name was on the board for the first time in, the best part of 6 years. It's one of those things that's just unbelievable. And, he sort of shed a few tears. He's, probably doesn't too often. And with me and him just sitting in that room, obviously what we'd been through, he was my only AFL coach, to sort of sit there and share that moment with him was pretty special. First person I called was my mother, and her and Dad were together, and for them it was probably something that they'd thought was a potential, but as I said, it becomes further and further from what the reality could actually be as the time goes on. On the phone to my parents, that's probably the first time I'd sort of let the emotions out, more relief and happy tears, I suppose, of about what I'd achieved to get to that point.
He is the story of the year so far, this comeback. I was just overwhelmed at the support I received and this sort of point I'd been able to get to. Footy had been everything for me from such a young age, so to be able to fulfil my second dream, I suppose, of getting back and prove a lot of people wrong was massive for me.
Here he is. Nice little measured kick.
After that game, there was plenty of tears as well. We won by 2 points, and close mates. Sort of a must-win game for the club as well. You forget how sort of special those things are until you're actually back doing it, and then you realise I realise why I put so much work into it. 8 days of normality for me, being a footballer again, and realising hopefully I can build on the second part of my career here and go on and have the career that I'd hoped I would have had coming off the back of the 2012, successful premiership season.
Hogan missed moments ago. What can he work out here? Oh, no. Almost over the line. In fact, over the line.
I'm worried about Alex Johnson. He's gone down.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Game against Melbourne at the MCG on a Sunday afternoon. I hadn't played there since that day, so it had been well over 2,000 days at this point since I'd been back there. The whole family there, a lot of friends, a lot of support, and 22 minutes into what was going to be my second game of hopefully 100 more. Turned on the boundary line, and you sort of know straight away I'd never had an issue with my right knee, but knew I'd done some significant damage to it.
Football should not be allowed to be this cruel to one man.
The initial feeling, I suppose, is shock. I'd never done it on an AFL field. I'd done it in pre-season games and at training and things like that. just the silence, the deafening silence that falls over the MCG, and you realise that all eyes are on you. Everyone wants to see a reaction. You try not to give too much away, I suppose. I knew it was towards the end of the first quarter as well. I knew exactly what had happened, career over, you know, knee done, those types of things, all that flashes through your head. You sort of think this will be the last time that I'll be able to be out on a ground where I grew up going, you know. Every footballer of any age wants to play on the MCG whenever they get the opportunity, and, you know, to only get another 20 minutes was, yeah, a really hard pill to swallow, but you sort of sit there. Wasn't until my mum made her way down from her seat and looked over the fence, and it's one of those things that I've looked back on that photo plenty of times now. It makes me emotional. I've probably seen it 500 times and spent a lot of time looking at it, and it makes me emotional every time you see it, because I think when you go through things, whatever it is, sickness or injury or whatever it may be, a hard time, it hits people around you harder because they actually can't help you. For Mum, she'd been my number one supporter throughout, you know, childhood and everything, and she'd never missed a surgery, had hardly missed any of my games and those types of things. And to see her standing there over the fence looking at me, knowing she couldn't do anything again is probably hard, and that's, I reckon, when I broke down a little bit, but also knew that I, you know, sort of had to keep things in check. Yeah, the amount of cameras these days in footy, you don't want to give too much away. Quarter time comes around, you go out and you sort of speak to your teammates and try and pretend that everything's fine. And, you know, I knew they had a job to do. I knew that it was an important game of footy for us to sort of play finals and those types of things. After that, I sort of made my way down to the rooms, and in a room, in the medical room, that, you know, it was just me and my mum, dad, sister, and we just sort of sat there, and yeah, that's probably when it really hit me that, you know, this potentially could be it for me in terms of a career and things like that. And when you're in the sort of depths of the MCG, I suppose that's when you can let your emotions out a bit. And I've never been too afraid of crying, I don't think. But when you're in company such as, you know, your really close family and things like that, and people who have been there the whole time, you sort of just let it all out, I suppose. And that week was, yeah, probably in terms of those sort of 8, 9, 10 days, they're probably the most I've cried in a short space of time. I think it was probably a 2 or 3 day period after that where it's just, you sort of tend to just give up, I suppose. You think not much is really worth it, and yeah, you go through a lot of lows and there's not much positive that comes out of those things, but you realise sort of the flow-on effect it has on other people. It sort of forces relationships to break down, and I've always tried to keep things in perspective as much as I could, and there's always people around you that are going through worse things, but when something that you sort of love and so passionate about and work so hard for is taken away from you, it's an extremely hard pill to swallow. There's not much you can do to change that. That sort of sent, I suppose, my personal relationship into a downward spiral, and that was the end of that at the end of 2018, which is an extremely hard thing to go. You sort of, you know, it's a girl I'd been with for a long time, and you put a lot of pressure on her because of what I'd been going through for the whole time, and then something like this happens and you just go ultimate self, and you sort of got to try and look after yourself first and foremost. You try and maintain the relationships as best you can, but obviously it's a byproduct of what goes on, that some survive and some don't, and you know, that's sort of the reality of it.
When you see the photo of you and your mum, and your mother is looking over the fence at you, you know what's happened. She wants to hold you, hug you. What is it that makes you so emotional when you see it?
I just think her being in a position of being helpless, I think that photo sums up, you know, probably a mother and son's relationship unbelievably well, and metaphorically really, and especially ours. She was, you know, she's never been able to sort of take the pain that I've been going through, or, you know, go out and do the hard work or whatever it is. She's always been there, no doubt about it, unwavering support, and, you know, even when I've stuffed up and things like that, she's always been there to you know, it's just been unconditional love and support throughout my whole life, really. We didn't need to exchange any words. You know, she knew, it was a slight look for a couple of seconds, and she knew what had happened. And you just feel for her, really. She can't do anything about it, and just ultimate helplessness, I suppose.
Through it all, what did you learn about yourself?
If you want something badly enough, you can do it. Doesn't sort of matter what gets in your way, and I think that's the big thing for me. I'm sort of, I'm not too worried about challenges that face me now because of what I've been able to get through.
Thanks for talking.
No worries.